Victor started to walk down the stone steps, his footsteps echoing in the tight hallway. The air got colder as he went deeper, with a slight smell of dirt and old things. Green crystals on the walls gave off a strange light, lighting up the detailed carvings that twisted along the path. What are these symbols? He traced his hand along the carvings as he walked. He had never seen anything like them before. He muttered to himself, "What were you hiding, old man?" The stairs finally ended in a vast underground chamber. Victor had never seen anything like it before. The ceiling was very high, with glowing green crystals shining brightly. The walls were filled with old, mysterious symbols carved deeply into the stone. In the middle of the room, there was a big, ornate mirror. Its frame was made of blackened metal, engraved with serpents and wolves. The glass reflected the dim light, but, in that reflection, Victor felt something living in the glass, something that watched. Around the chamber were shelves carved into the walls, filled with dusty books and scrolls. A heavy wooden desk sat to one side, piled with more books and strange artifacts. On the desk, Victor's eyes fell on a red leather diary. Next to it was a faded photograph in a simple frame. The picture showed a younger man with piercing eyes and a sharp, proud face. Victor recognized the man instantly. It was his grandfather. He picked up the photograph and stared at it for a moment. He never knew his grandfather that well and barely met him twice, but for some reason, he left this place to him just before his death. Victor couldn't wait to find out the secret. He placed the photo frame down and picked up the red leather diary, his heart pounding with anticipation. The old brittle leather cover cracked as Victor opened the book. The yellow pages were filled with his grandfather's neat handwriting. The first page bore his grandfather's name, and below it, a title that sent a chill through Victor's spine: The Truth of the Von Doom Lineage. Victor sat down, his curiosity overwhelming his frustration. He began to read, his heart pounding with each word. The diary detailed his family's history, a story hidden from him his entire life. He learned that he was born to a tribe of Romani people in Latveria, ruled by a cruel nobleman known only as the Baron. His mother, Cynthia van Dam, had been a witch of great power. She had made a dangerous pact with Mephisto, a demon who betrayed her, leading to her death when Victor was just a child. His father, Werner van Dam, had been a skilled healer, known and respected throughout the land. After Cynthia's death, the Baron's wife fell gravely ill, and Werner was called to treat her. When his efforts failed and the woman died, the Baron accused him of murder. Werner fled with Victor, taking him far from the Baron's wrath. Victor's father had changed their surname to Von Doom, hiding their true identity to protect them both. But the secrets ran even deeper. The diary revealed that their bloodline could be traced back to Vlad Tepes Dracula himself. Victor felt a strange sense of both pride and dread as he read. He realized now why he had always felt different. If what the diary said was true, he was not just a Romani boy raised in fear of his shadowed past, but a descendant of one of the most infamous vampires in history. He closed the diary and leaned back in the chair. His mind was racing. Everything he thought he knew about himself, his family, and his past had been a lie. The failures of his life, the anger he carried. They were all pieces of a puzzle he had never been allowed to see. Now, for the first time, he saw the full picture. All those scary dreams about magic and evil spirits might actually be connected to a secret his family has been keeping from him. As someone who believes in science, it all seemed like a made-up story. But after reading his grandfather's diary, he couldn't ignore it anymore. The diary helped him understand things about himself that he never could before. Mephisto, He stood up after gathering his thoughts. How much of it is truth? I need more proof. Victor turned his attention to the large mirror in the center of the chamber. It was ornate and elegant, with a swirling black frame that seemed to have been carved from obsidian. The surface was smooth and shiny, like polished black stone. Victor touched the edge of the frame with his fingers, feeling a strange, tingling feeling on his skin. It seemed as if someone was calling to him from the other side of the glass, urging him to take the last step into a world he could never have imagined. The idea was absurd, yet as he stared into the depths of the mirror, he could almost see something moving in its reflection. Something ancient and powerful. Something that had been waiting for him all this time. "What is this place?" he asked out loud, although there was no one else in the room to answer him. The question seemed to hang there for a moment, unanswered. Then, gradually, the glass of the mirror began to ripple, as though it were a pool of water disturbed by a pebble. The ripples spread across the glass, and in them, Victor began to see images. They were images of a place that looked like the catacombs of a castle, a place filled with dark secrets and ancient power. A thought stuck in his mind. What if magic is real? And there was no denying what he was seeing right before his eyes. What if this was his destiny from the beginning? All those failures and sufferings have led him to this point, his origin story. He knew it was impossible, but that's the whole point of science, right? To find answers to the impossible questions? Victor's heart pounded with excitement as he reached out and placed his hand against its cool surface. The glass rippled beneath his touch, and he could feel something within it reaching out to him. What? He didn't even have time to react before being sucked into the mirror. He felt as though he was going through a long, dark tunnel. A flash of light burst through, and he was in the middle of the catacombs. The cold air of the underground tomb sent shivers down his spine. Victor looked around, taking in his surroundings. The walls were lined with stone coffins, each one decorated with elaborate carvings of demons and monsters. He could feel the unnatural pressure pressing down on him as if he were stepping into a place that had been forgotten for centuries. Arg! He put his hand over his nose. The air was thick with dust and the smell of decay, making it hard to breathe. A faint green glow caught his attention. It was a book, its pages open and weathered by time, was lying on the ground. He walked over, and as he touched it, he felt a strange warmth beneath his fingertips. The book glowed with an eerie green light, illuminating the catacombs. Victor picked it up and read the cover, the Book of Elements. He opened the book. It was written in a language that was foreign to him. Yet for some reason, he could understand what it said. His eyes widened when he read the first page. It was a message from his mother. The words, though written in an ancient, swirling script, flowed into his mind as if they were whispered directly into his thoughts. It was his mother's voice he heard. It was gentle, yet urgent, as though the words had been waiting for him all this time. Even his cold heart ached. "My dearest Victor, if you are reading this, then you have discovered the truth of our lineage, and fate has led you to this place. Know that I loved you deeply, even if our time together was tragically short. You were but a child when I was taken, and not a day has passed in this cursed existence that I do not yearn to hold you again. I have left this book for you, a record of my life, my knowledge, and my warnings. Within these pages, you will find the spells and secrets I mastered, tools that you will need to survive the dark road ahead." Victor swallowed hard, his throat tight with emotion. "You come from a line of strength and suffering. Our blood carries the gifts of magic and resilience, but it also bears a curse. Be wary of demons, Victor, especially one named Mephisto. He is a deceiver, a tormentor who twists the hopes of mortals into their doom. I fell victim to his promises, foolishly believing I could protect you and our people through his power. Instead, I brought ruin upon us all." The green light from the book flickered like a dying flame, and Victor's vision blurred as tears welled up in his eyes. "The pact I made with him cost me my life, but not my soul. He betrayed me, as all demons do, and dragged me into the depths of hell. I am alive, Victor, though I am bound here, imprisoned by his will. If you are reading this, then I beg you, do not follow in my footsteps. Do not let anger and vengeance cloud your judgment as it did mine. There are forces in this world darker than you can imagine, and they will seek to use you for their own ends." Victor clenched his fists, rage simmering beneath his sorrow. His mother was alive? Imprisoned in hell by the very demon who had orchestrated her demise? He would not let her remain there. The message continued, her voice growing more serious. "This book holds my life's work. Each spell, each ritual, is a key that can unlock power beyond mortal comprehension. But power is a double-edged sword, my son. Wield it wisely, or it will consume you. Above all, remember this: you have the strength to forge your own path, to rise above the curses of our bloodline. You are not defined by the darkness that surrounds you. You are my son, and you are stronger than you know. Victor closed the book, taking a deep breath. His mind reeled with everything he had just learned. His mother was alive, imprisoned in hell. She had left this book for him, a record of her life's work, a record of spells and rituals that could unlock power beyond mortal comprehension. That he knew what he had to do. He would find a way to break her out of Mephisto's grasp. He forgot about his own fame and fortune, which seemed so trivial now. The only thing that mattered was getting his mother back and killing the demon for all the pain and suffering he had caused. Cold wind howled through the peaks of the Rocky Mountains. Mandarin and his 10 Rings assassin squad made their way up the steep slopes. They moved in perfect formation, their dark, shadowy figures cutting through the twilight. Each squad member knew that their mission was not one of ordinary importance. Mandarin's empire had been torn asunder by an enemy more powerful than they could have anticipated. The one behind it was Victor Von Doom. Mandarin's anger was like a fire slowly burning inside him, fueled by years of ambition and now driven by a need for revenge. His empire, which he had spent decades carefully building, had been destroyed by one man, the mysterious Victor Von Doom. This loss hurt him more than any other defeat ever had. With every step he took up the rough, rocky cliffs of the Latverian mountains, his rage grew stronger, pushing him forward. "Stay sharp," Mandarin ordered, his voice cold and commanding. "Victor must be close. We cannot let him escape again." The assassins nodded in unison, their faces hidden behind steel masks and shadows, their weapons gleaming under the moonlight. They were trained to hunt, to track, and to eliminate. No one escaped the 10 Rings. The search was meticulous, as they looked all over the mountain for signs of life. Finally, at the peak, they could see the silhouette of a gigantic structure. It was an old castle, which seemed deserted yet miraculously well preserved. "This is it," Mandarin whispered, his gaze narrowing as he studied the stone walls. The castle had the look of something forgotten by time, like it was waiting for something or someone to bring it back to life. With a silent signal, he and his assassins moved towards the entrance, their boots barely making a sound on the worn stone. As they entered the dimly lit hallways, the atmosphere grew heavier, thick with the scent of dust and decay. The air was unnervingly cold, and the faint hum of what could only be described as an ancient, forgotten magic hung in the corners. "This place is cursed," one of the assassins muttered, his eyes scanning the walls, which were covered in cryptic, swirling symbols. Mandarin ignored him. His attention was consumed by the task at hand. The castle was a maze of twisting corridors, yet no matter how far they went, there was no sign of Victor. Not a trace. The equipment, footprints, clean kitchen and bedroom, and the warm fireplace. Everything seemed to suggest someone had been here recently, but where was he? After hours of searching the vast labyrinth of the castle, the squad regrouped in the central chamber. The massive mirror that Victor had once stood before stood at the center, its obsidian frame casting long shadows on the walls. The mirror's glass was undisturbed, yet something felt off. The reflection seemed oddly still, almost as if mocking them. But no one noticed this eerie change, they were too focused on trying to find Victor. "He's gone," Mandarin said, his voice a low growl. The frustration in his voice was palpable. "He's playing with us." "But where?" His fists clenched, and his eyes burned with rage. No one, no matter how powerful, could elude him for long. "Search the mountain," Mandarin barked. "Leave no stone unturned. He cannot have vanished into thin air." Once more, the 10 Rings spread out, scouring the grounds beneath the castle, searching through the dense woods and across the cliffs, moving as fast as shadows in the night. The hours dragged on, but despite their best efforts, no trace of Victor was found. As dawn approached, the assassins returned to the castle, defeated and exhausted. Their leader waited for them, his posture tense with anger. They had failed him. They were supposed to be the best of the best, but now they were nothing but a bunch of fools. What is this? Mandarin hissed. How can he not be here? Are you telling me this place has no secret tunnels or hidden passages? Yes, one of the assassins replied, his voice wavering. We searched every inch of this place. There's nothing. Mandarin took a deep breath, his mind racing, trying to come up with a logical explanation. He couldn't believe that Victor had simply disappeared into thin air. His 10 rings began to glow as he aimed his right hand toward the castle. A burst of purple energy shot out of his fist and struck the castle. There was no sound or explosion, but a simple sizzling sound. Within seconds, the castle began to disintegrate, layer by layer, until there was nothing left but an empty plot. I'll find you, Victor Von Doom, Mandarin promised. Even if I have to tear this entire planet apart to do so. And with that, he and his 10 rings left the mountain. Meanwhile, inside the catacombs, Victor sat cross-legged on the cold stone floor, surrounded by the faint green glow emanating from the Book of Elements. The air was still, save for the occasional crackle of magical energy flickering between his fingertips as he began to harness the ancient spells written within the tome. His sharp mind, honed by years of scientific rigor, now worked tirelessly to decipher and master the arcane. The book lay open before him, its pages filled with complex sigils, swirling diagrams, and incantations written in the strange, ancient tongue. Yet as he read, the words seemed to rearrange themselves, forming coherent thoughts and phrases in his mind. Control the elements, and you control the world, his mother's voice echoed in his thoughts as he read one of her annotations. Victor raised a hand, focusing intently. He recited the incantation etched into the page before him. The syllables were sharp and guttural, yet they felt natural in his mouth, as if they had always been there, waiting for this moment. A spark of flame flickered to life in his palm, its heat warm but contained. He turned it over, marveling at the way the fire obeyed his will, shaping itself into a sphere, then a spiraling flame. A faint smile tugged at the corner of his mouth, the scientist in him fascinated by the interplay of magic and energy. Fire, a manifestation of pure energy, he muttered, his voice echoing off the stone walls. Yet it responds to thought, intention. This isn't just power, this is science rewritten. Encouraged, he turned the page. The next spell described the manipulation of water. He reached out his hand again, and a stream of water began to form in the air, drawn from the very moisture of the chamber. It swirled and danced, its movements precise and graceful under his control. Victor's excitement grew as he continued to experiment. He summoned small gusts of wind, then shifted to command the very stones around him. Pebbles and chunks of rock lifted into the air, hovering for a moment before gently lowering back to the ground. Incredible! If I can merge magic and technology, then who can even stop me? Here, in the depths of the earth, Victor was in his element. The knowledge of his lineage, the betrayal of Mephisto, and the imprisonment of his mother had awakened something within him. His mind, once preoccupied with the rational world, now fully embraced the impossible. The green glow of the book brightened as he turned to a new section, binding rituals and protective wards. Back to Tony, Malibu. The next morning, the sunlight filtered through the windows, dragging Tony from a restless sleep. His body ached from the previous night's workout, but his mind was sharper, focused. He swung his legs over the edge of the bed and rubbed his temples. "All right, Hermes," he said, his voice gravelly. "Tell me you've got something new for me." "Good morning, sir." Surveillance feeds expanded to a 50-mile radius. One anomaly detected offshore, an unregistered vessel lingering at the edge of international waters. It appears stationary. Tony's brow furrowed. What type of vessel? Small, possibly a private yacht. No visible identifying markers, but thermal imaging indicates active systems on board. Send a drone. I want visuals and a heat signature analysis. Let's see if we can get a clearer picture of what's going on. A large yawn escaped his mouth as he rubbed his eyes. Drone dispatched. ETA, 3 minutes. Tony stood and stretched. He quickly freshened up and made his way to the workshop. The holographic interface was already lit up, displaying the trajectory of the drone as it approached the mysterious yacht. The feed flickered to life, showing a black yacht anchored just outside legal boundaries. The design was minimal, modern, and far too advanced to be an ordinary yacht. "Zoom in," he commanded. The image adjusted, revealing faint movement on the deck, a single figure pacing, cloaked in a long coat. The heat signature analysis revealed more. At least 3 others were inside the vessel, their outlines faint but distinct. "Well, this isn't suspicious at all," Tony muttered, narrowing his eyes. "Hermes, enhance audio. Let's see if they're chatty." The audio feed crackled to life, faint but discernible. A voice, sharp, clipped, with a faint Russian accent, spoke rapidly. Another voice responded, this one deeper, its words measured. "Preparations nearly complete, timing must be perfect, Romanov. We need to know what Stark is hiding in that facility." Tony's stomach twisted at the mention of Natasha's name. His instincts had been right. This wasn't a coincidence. "Record everything," he ordered. "Cross-reference the voices with known aliases or operatives in the SHIELD database." "Processing, sir." As Hermes worked, Tony's mind raced. He needs to amp up the new nanites development and create a suit. Only then he would have enough power to face the threat. "Hermes, reroute the drone to maintain a high-altitude observation position. I don't want them noticing us yet." "Understood, sir." Tony leaned back in his chair, tapping his fingers against the desk. "All right, if they want to play spy games, let's give them a show." He pulled up the plans for the restaurant, now legally his, and began designing modifications. Hidden cameras, microphones, and other surveillance tech would be installed in every corner of the building. He called the owner for the keys and hard copies of legal documents and asked him to meet at the restaurant within 30 minutes. Well, when money was involved, people did not argue. Tony gathered his gadgets and locked the facility as usual. He went to the restaurant at the exact time of the meeting. The previous owner and his lawyer were already waiting outside. They greeted him and led him inside the building. After exchanging greetings and signing several important documents, the owner handed Tony the keys. They parted ways as quickly as they had met, and Tony was left alone in the silent restaurant. "Well, let's see." He took out his new customized phone and began to scan the place, hoping to find something. His intuition didn't let him down. Although he didn't find any bugs, he noticed some places under the tables and chairs had small clean spots. It was as if something had been placed there and removed recently. He checked the props on the wall and it was the same. There were no bugs, but it looked like someone had come here before him and cleaned the place. Whoever it was, they were good at covering their tracks, but not good enough. Thanks to him buying the place, those agents had to work in a hurry to clean up the place. "Oh, my. Would you look at that? How lovely." He grinned. And so, the game begins. Tony spent the day installing hidden cameras and microphones throughout the restaurant, all linked to Hermes. Now, if anyone tried to mess with anything, he would know about it. He looked at his watch. It was 10 a.m. He was supposed to meet up with Natasha at 2 p.m. Well, got enough time. He made sure everything was ready before he locked the place and decided to grab some fresh fruits and some groceries from the market. His freezer and kitchen cabinets were almost empty.